Hello YouTubers, it's JSkyer91 again, and today I am back to do another video. I know I've been kind of on a video binge, and today I'm going to be doing a video on turns per second, or TPS, and in particular the amount of turns per second required in order to overcome certain time barriers. Now these are just rough estimates that I'm coming up with, and I know there's been a lot of discussion of this. But I personally think that a video showing what certain turn per second is more beneficial to people than simply saying you need to turn at 3 turns per second or 1.5 turns per second. So, I'm going to try and do this, and I'm going to be turning. I'm going to start with the 1 minute mark, 45 seconds, 30 seconds, 25 seconds, 20 seconds, and 17 seconds. And then I'm going to do 15 seconds. I could do less than 15 seconds, but I honestly do about 13 seconds on average, and so I don't really know that it would be that beneficial to anyone, because I would probably just be looking for a lucky solve that allowed me to turn at the exact turn per seconds required. I normally turn a lot faster than that. So yes, alrighty. I'm going to be doing all my scrambles with green on front, white on top, and I will be reading them out loud to you. So alright, let's go on to 1 minute. Alright, so at the sub 1 minute mark. Now, the sub 1 minute mark is not that difficult to overcome. I know most of you are thinking, oh, I don't even need to do this, it's just practice. And I agree. It is practice. Practice is the main key in order to overcome this. But I do think it's important that you see that you need to be turning somewhere around 1 turn per second to 2 turns per second, assuming you're doing a forward look last layer and an F2L, which is what I will be doing for the 1 minute mark and the 45 second mark. Then I believe you'll only be needing 1 turn per second. Now, one thing to keep in mind here is that your algorithms, so your forward look last layer, those 4 algorithms you apply should be somewhere around 2 to 3 turns per second, if not 4 turns per second. Now, it seems like a lot, but it's really not. You'd be surprised how quickly you can actually move. So, with that in mind, let's begin. Alrighty. B2, L, G, B prime, F, U2, F prime, D, U prime, L, R prime, B2, U, B2, F2, U prime, F2, G, U2, R prime, B2, F prime, G2, U2, L2. Alrighty. We'll be doing white on top just for your guys' sakes, or white on as my main color. These are really easy. They're correct relative position to one another, blue and green. That one's opposites, so what I can do is I can toss this one in opposites, those will be opposites, and then I can just turn that one in opposites. And with our luck, we're not even going to have to worry about this thing, if I do this correctly. Okie dokie. Alright, ready? Going to do, go. There. Move that U just to preserve that, because that would be really nice. I know you probably wouldn't do that, but there's that. That pair's already there. Toss it in. 1, 2, 3. This corner, this edge. I put it over here, pair them up, like that, move it over, put them in. Okay, now this corner, I see that edge, I put them back here, pair them up, move them over, put them in. Okay, when I have this corner, this edge, this is the beginner's case, move it over, up, back, down, now you pair them up and put them back in. Okay, now let's get our cross-oriented. And let's solve it. Now we have all of them there. Oh, we were lucky. We got a little bit of a skip there, and that's okay. Now we're going to solve the edges. And that was about a 50-second solve. So, and that was because we got a skip. Had we not gotten a skip, we would have had to solve the corners, which would have taken an extra algorithm, probably an extra 2 to 3 seconds. Okay? Probably a 3 seconds to 4 seconds, actually, now that I think about it. And that would have been about a 54-second solve. And you can see the turns per second required there was not very much. That was about 1 turn per second. I was just doing basically things like this. It's not much to ask at all. Alrighty. On to 45 seconds. Alright, now we're at the 45-second mark. So this is where a lot more people start getting stuck. I know a lot of people spend a lot of time at 1 minute, but I think the 45-second mark has a lot more to it, because it's where you're going to have to start having a little bit of skill. Not a lot, but you're going to have to start having a little turning speed and a little bit of skill. You're going to need somewhere around 1.5 turns per second. Now again, considering that your last layer algorithm should be somewhere around 2 to 3 turns per second, if not 4, then I don't think this is that much to ask, but it's still around 1.5 on average. So we're going to be trying moving constantly, and we're going to try to make sure we relax, breathe, and if we can, possibly do a little look ahead, but I don't really expect that. So, alrighty. And the moves are D prime, D prime, D prime, L2, B2, L, B prime, F, R, D, F prime, L prime, F prime, L, R2, B, D, U2, B, D2, R2, F, R prime, D, R prime, U2, R2. Now, if you need to slow this down, just go back and rewatch it. We have a really easy cross here, and I think no matter what you did, it would be, if you did this even remotely optimally, you should preserve a pair, I believe. Yes. Maybe not, actually, now that I think about it. Okay, well I would have preserved this pair, but that's obviously a little too much to get into, so let's just go ahead and start with this. That's pretty easy. Toss it in, toss that in, toss it in. That's probably what you would have done. Alright. Ready, set, go. Turn, 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 turn. First corner, first edge. Put them over here. Put them in. Next corner, next edge. Split them up. Put them in. Corner, edge. Put them over here. Put them in. Corner, edge. See if I put that there. I can do 2 sledgehammers. And that'll put them in. We're now going to orient our cross and solve like that to orient all of them. Do our corners and do our edges. 40 seconds. So yeah, that's sub 45. You saw it was a little more turning speed there. Especially in the PLL, this is, I think, an area where you're really going to start seeing a good increase in your turning speed. And that's going to be because you've been practicing a lot more now. So, on to sub 30 seconds. Alright guys, so, now we're at the sub 30 second mark. Now this is a big jump, okay? I realize that most of you are thinking, ooh, yeah, this is where I am. Or, oh, this is so hard. Remember, this was a hard barrier to overcome. The biggest reason here is you need to be moving somewhere around 2 turns per second if you want to be able to do this consistently. And that means that you're going to have to look ahead a little bit. So you're going to be looking for your next move, your next pair as you're doing your current pair. Okay? I'm going to be doing this. I'm probably not going to talk nearly as much for this because it is a little faster. Okay. And let's go. B, D, U2, B, D prime, U, R2, U prime, L prime, R2, D, U, B2, L2, R2, B2, L, F prime, L, B2, L2, R2, B, D2, B. Okay? Let's see. I see that this piece and this piece can be put in correct relative to one another, green and blue. And this one can as well, with just a couple moves. So that would just be a U, R2. And that puts those in. Then I'll toss that one in and move on. Okay? So ready, set, go. Okay. First pair. Second pair. Third pair. Fourth pair. Low. Peel. 26 seconds. Now that might have seemed like a huge difference to you. I mean, that was a huge difference in terms of turning speed. I got lucky. I had a U-perm, which means that which for you should probably be a lot faster than most of your perms. That should have been a relatively achievable solve for what that solve was. You had a pretty easy cross there, which made it a lot easier too. So, that's about the turns per second you're looking at. That was about 2. Now, it probably felt a lot faster. I did pause a little, which means that there were times when I was probably going a little faster than 2 turns per second to make up for it. But I think that's what you probably would have been doing had you been doing it. So, on to sub 25. Alright, now we're at the sub 25 seconds. Now this is a big difference between sub 30. The biggest thing here is going to be turns per second. You need to be doing at least 2 to 2.3. 2.5 would be optimal because, you know, you're likely to make mistakes. As the next thing is look ahead and mistakes. You need to be looking ahead. You should not be just looking at the single pair that you're working on. You should be looking for your next pair. If you're not looking for your next pair, you're very likely to take too long to find it, and you're going to be wasting seconds in between each pair. 2 to 3 seconds between each pair, that's 4 pairs. That is somewhere around 12 seconds you've wasted. You can't afford 12 seconds. Not unless your PLLs and OLLs are amazing. So, also, you cannot really mess up. Your sub 25, you can probably mess up once. I mean, assuming you're turning at the speed that I was saying. And once we get to sub 20, you're really not going to mess up at all. So I'm going to be working on trying to go as optimal and do what I need to do without messing up. So ready? B, F, D prime, U, F, R2, U2, R2, D prime, L prime, F, U, L2, R2, B2, F, L, R, D prime, U2, F prime, L prime, R prime, U, F. Starting on white yet again, we have, I see these are opposites. This is not too bad at all. This is opposites. This can be put in opposites, and then that, as it pulls it down, is going to put that in opposites, and then I'll just end with that F2. Okay? So ready, set, go. Go. Okay, back pair. This pair. That pair. That pair. OLL. PLL. Okay, so you saw that there. 22.78. Might have taken you a second or two longer because I had this OLL, or this PLL, and it was just U-perm, but I knew it from the back. I don't know if you knew that at the time. You might have had done a Y2 and then do it. But 2 seconds more, maybe you would have been right there, somewhere around sub 25. Alrighty guys, now this is probably the one you are watching the video for. Because sub 20 seconds is a lot harder. It's much harder than any other ones. For sub 20 seconds, you need to be averaging somewhere around 3 turns per second. That's assuming you average about 60 moves. Now, that's probably, you can do a little less than 3 turns per second on average, because most people probably have somewhere around 50 moves. But you need to be solving relatively optimally, at least. Look ahead is absolute. You have to be looking ahead to your next pair. Now, I'm not going to be able to talk nearly as much during this one. I probably will just explain the cross and go for it. I'll try and go at about the turns per second you need. But yeah, this should be should be very smooth, and it should definitely be continuous. Now, it's key. You've got to not stop if you really want to do this well, assuming you don't have great turns per second. Okay? So, I'm going to start calling the moves. B2, L2, R, U, R, F prime, L2, R, B prime, F2, D prime, U2, L2, F, U, F, D prime, B2, F, R, D, U, R, F prime, D prime. Alrighty. White cross again. Now, I see that's good, easy. That's good, that's easy. This can be tossed in one move, and what I'm going to do is do that. I'm going to toss that in a move, and then at the same time, I'm also going, so I'm going to do it an L prime and an R prime at the same time. So basically an M is what I'm going to do, M prime, and then a U. That's exactly what M prime U, and then I'm going to finish them off and put them in. Okay? Ready, set, go. Okay, saw that there. Alright, now, my perms were somewhere around 2 seconds. You pretty much need your perms somewhere around 2 seconds, which for some of those, that's around 8 turns per second. Some of them, that's around 5 turns per second, but you would definitely probably want your turns, your perms, your permutations, as in your T perm and your Y perm, all of those, to be somewhere around 2 seconds or below. You can get away sometimes if you have a really good F2L, but it's very unlikely. Okay? That was a 17.82. Cross wasn't that hard. That probably would have been an 18 or 19 at that speed had I had a little bit of a harder cross. But you can see it's all sub 20. What was the key there is I was going non-stop. I didn't stop, I at least for the grand majority of it I did. And I was looking ahead to the next pair as much as I could. Well, I could have much more, but as much as you probably could at the time. Alright, sub 17. Alright, so we are at the sub 17 mark. Now this is a lot more difficult because you're somewhere between 20 seconds where you need a lot of look ahead, but not so great TPS, and 15 seconds where you need some good TPS. Okay? It's going to be difficult, but I think you guys can do this. Basically what we're looking for is a balance. You want about 3 to 3.5 TPS, and you want to be going non-stop. Okay? As non-stop as you can possibly be. Alright? So let's go ahead and do this. U, L, R2, D2, R, F prime, L2, R prime, D prime, L, D, U, L2, R prime, D2, U, L prime, B prime, F prime, R, F2, R, U prime, L prime, R2. Alrighty, let's see what we've got here. Anything of interest? Got some stuff that'll work. Okay, so my thoughts here. I'm going to take this, toss it here, like that. Then I'm going to take, as I'm doing that though, I'm basically going to do an R like that. That's going to set those correct relative to one another, and then I'll just finish off the last bits. Yes. Okay. Ready, set, go. $16.27. Now, a couple things I did there. It wasn't an optimal solve. I actually messed up. But what I did do right there was I did have relatively good look ahead. I messed up once, and I did an extra couple cube rotations, which is something you really want to work on in this situation. But when you're trying to hit this time barrier. But I think that was a relatively good solve. Good PLL, good OLL. Those are really key. A bad PLL or a bad OLL can really mess up your times in these. You should really try and do some PLL and OLL attacks in order to beat this barrier. I think that'll help you a lot. It'll also help your fingers to start moving more fluidly, so you don't have to think as much. Look ahead is an absolute must. Alright, so now, sub 15 mark. Now, this is a big mark. I have this down 95% of the time, but there's a good chunk of the time when even I'm not 100% sub 15. I can't guarantee sub 15 solves yet. So, I'm not claiming to be an amazing sub 15 solver. I do average somewhere around 13, especially when warmed up. Right now I'm not very warmed up, so this I might mess up, but probably won't. I think I've got sub 15 okay. Biggest key here is going to be you need to have speed and look ahead. You need to no longer, like the second you find your pair that you're working on, the first pair you're working on, go to the next one. You need to be tracking as far ahead as possible. Also, sub 15, you're really trying to get some X crosses, trying to take what you have and use it the best you can. You want optimal crosses if possible, and you want to be able to look ahead as much as possible. TPS doesn't hurt, but don't pause in between. Choppy is really not that great of a way to get through this. You do need some smoothness. Okay, so F, R, U prime, L2, R prime, U prime, L2, R, B2, F, L, F prime, D, B2, R prime, B, F2, L2, F2, L, R2, U, R prime, U prime, L. So, let's see what we've got here. Ooh, not too much to work with here. We've got that in place. This, I guess I could try and go for an opposites cross, which means I could toss that in and those. But I don't quite know if that's what I want. That's probably what I'll do, I guess, yeah. So I'm going to take that and opposites, do a D, toss it in, and then do an R2 in the end. Alright. Ready, set. Alright, that's perfect. I did not do an move at the end there. It may have looked like it because I kind of gripped it weird, but that was sub 15. First try too, which is always nice. Yeah, so sub 15 there. Some key points. Turns per second were pretty good. I'd say they were somewhere around 4 turns per second to 5 turns per second. That's really what you're looking for. If you've got 5 turns per second, you've got it golden, assuming you can maintain good look ahead. Now, I think 4 turns per second is probably what you should be shooting for because that's very realistic and very doable. Most people can do 4 turns per second. 4 turns per second is something like this. It's not that much. And if you can do it consistently, you can get through that and get a sub 15. Now, other things. Really, you should be looking for as many things as possible. Color neutrality. I'm color neutral. This was not a color neutral solve. That solve would have been... I saw a red cross that was great. I saw a couple other crosses that were much better than the cross I was doing. That worked. I obviously got a sub 15, but I could have done much better. So yeah, that's sub 15. I would look into X crosses. I'd look into color neutrality. I'd look into corner tracking. Look up some videos on people who do sub 15. I personally find watching people who do sub 15, so like watching people are much better than me. So like people who are at like 10 seconds. They really help me for some reason. I see their TPS, I see how focused they are, and it's just like, yes, I can focus. I made also another video on turbo tracking. That would be helpful to you. Basically, it's just a method to increase your look ahead at high speeds. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, please leave them, rate, comment, subscribe. I try to keep these as close to the sub 15 mark or the sub 20 mark as possible. I know some of the earlier ones, it's like less than a minute is really hard to me to not do so much quicker, but I think that those are the turns per second you need, and that's a good way to see them. So, have a good day. Bye-bye.